Virtual RC Racing, The Inside Story. Episode 1, How It All Began. My name is Peter Barefoots. All my RC life, and especially as a manufacturer, I have been wondering how we could make the RC car hobby more accessible for the general public. This hobby is simply very difficult to get into, especially in those days. Companies like Kyosho and Tamiya were the only companies offering products which were entry-level, but even these were quite difficult to operate. As a small manufacturer of Serpent model racing cars, it was even more difficult to promote our racing products. Promotion was limited to advertising in RC magazines and RC races. Remember, in those days there was no internet yet. Late 90s, the first computer sims came on the market for real racing cars, air flight sims, and also sims for radio-controlled model airplanes. This triggered the idea of creating an RC car sim so we could everyone give a virtual RC racing experience without having to worry about crashing the car all the time. And of course, the game had to be controlled with a proper RC transmitter, not with a joystick. So that was the first thing I was set out to do: design and manufacture a device which would connect your RC transmitter receiver with your PC. In those days, PCs did not have USB ports yet. The USB port was invented in 1996. We opted to use the COM port for our very first game port adapter. I thought we had created quite a unique product and perhaps it would be interesting to patent it, so I got in contact with a patent office in The Hague. Part of the patenting process is to do a market survey for products with similar unique characteristics and functionality. And much to my surprise, they found a GamePort adapter which was developed by a certain Lothar Pantel, who lived in Neckargemünd in the middle of Germany, with a European patent pending. Lothar's game adapter used the parallel port, also known as Centronics port or printer port, which was used, among others, to connect a printer or a scanner. So both solutions were quite different from an electronics design point of view. Coincidentally, Neckargemünd is the next town up the river Neckar where my best youth friend Hans Bales lives, Ziegelhausen just outside Heidelberg. So I decided to contact Lothar Pantel to see if we could work together somehow, and a few weeks later we met in Neckargemünd, the first of many. At that time Lothar still studied computer science at the Technical University of Darmstadt, and his game adapter was not a real big thing for him. But surprisingly, he had also an RC racing game for PCs, which was supplied together with his adapter. What a coincidence. His RC racing game, called RC Car Trainer, was distributed by Conrad Electronic and featured 2.5D graphics, that is 2D scrolling with pseudo 3D effects. We decided to cooperate rather than to fight each other for a patent. It wasn't all that important to me as my main focus was of course on the Serpent company. Our GamePort adapter could also be used with racing games like IndyCar Racing, which was one of the leading racing sims in those days. Controlling a real car with an RC transmitter was still a lot better than with a joystick. Steering wheels and pedals were just entering the market back then. I remember during one of my many travels to the US, we had an office in Miami then, I visited the Papyrus IndyCar Racing office in Boston one day to demonstrate how our GamePort adapter with a transmitter could also control IndyCar racing. They thought it was interesting but funny to use it for a racing game. I thought we need something more sophisticated than Lothar's RC Car Trainer V2, and I came up with a new concept: virtual RC racing. This was the start of our own game development. Lothar already had worked on version 3 of his RC Car Trainer, which featured 3D graphics for the first time, and since we had joined forces, his software was finally released as Virtual RC Racing V1 by Serpent. We even had CDs made to include with Serpent's VRC GamePort adapter. End of 1999, we released an app of Virtual RC Racing running in a web browser with race results displayed in a ranking table on a website. Version 2 of Virtual RC Racing added support for 3D hardware acceleration via DirectX, since at that time new types of graphics cards with 3D hardware acceleration for Windows started to become popular on the market. Accordingly, the second version of Virtual RC Racing featured a higher polygon count and a higher texture resolution compared to version 1. However, the biggest technological leap came with version 3. The VRC V3 story is next. Virtual RC Racing, the Inside Story.